Live from Desert Rain Studios, talking about all things fun and interesting in the world of online video games and bringing the conversation back to EverQuest Next wherever we can, connecting gamers to the game they play. This is EverCast. I'm one of your normal weekly regular hosts, Stanley. With me are our three other normal weekly regular hosts, Flattus, Kylist, and Lucy.
Hi everybody, I'm Lucy.
Hi everybody, I'm Kai.
I'm a dragon. Or a bull, depending on...
I said bull earlier, but dragon works too.
I could be a bull. Pretty sure that's something in some sort of way.
No, I was just getting ready to point out that you're not wearing horns.
It's too easy.
No horns.
It's too early in the show.
Oh god.
It's too early in the show.
No, it's never too early in the show.
But then I would only be a unicorn.
All right. So this is the normal group. As said, we are an online video game podcast, trying to bring the conversation back to EverQuest Next wherever we can. Flattus, you want to do your shameless plea?
Yeah, advertise like a shameless whore, and that's what I will do. Yeah, so, listen. We, Stitcher, find us there. Listen live, thumbs us up on Stitcher, like us, share us. It'll share. You know, there's a button on Stitcher. You hit the button, right? And it'll share it out to Twitter. You can tell people you're listening to us. And that's cool. And then other people will be like, oh, you're listening to what's EverCast? I can listen to EverCast on the go. And yeah, you can. That's one option. You have iTunes is the other option. You should go leave a 5 or 1 or 2 or 3, whatever star review you want to leave us. As long as you're leaving us a review, and tell an enemy, tell a friend, I don't care, tell somebody. But share the show with somebody and let them listen. We don't ask for your money. But all I will ever ask for is that you share the show with somebody, and that's all it takes, really. And then it helps us out in the long run on iTunes and everything else. So,
iTunes is pretty great. I know that if there's a podcast I listen to, I go to sleep, I wake up in the morning, and it'll download automatically the latest episode. It's pretty cool that way.
Yeah. Also, after I will talk to Tamlin, but there's a new app called TuneIn Radio, and I think all we do is really just get submit our RSS feed to get approved, and we will be on there. And I think we already applied to be on Google's our podcast catcher when it goes live.
I will write that down, and we can look into that.
All right, yeah.
We should be on as many different platforms as we can get.
We should be on the Googles.
Yeah, so Google's going to be starting theirs, and as I think if we get in early enough, we should be granted. So as soon as it goes live, we'll start pulling in our shows. So, and TuneIn is an app that just directly hits our server and streams on the go. So if you don't like Stitcher, you've used it in the past and you've not liked it, there's TuneIn now, and we'll try to work that out. So thank you all, but let's we got to get some news. So I'll kick it back over to Tamlin.
Yeah, Stitcher was down for 5 days last week, so I can understand if people were looking for alternatives.
Oh.
Hey, ECast news. So the big thing, let's talk about us first. Lucy has a streaming schedule. Lucy, what's your streaming schedule for this week?
So apologetically, my streaming schedule has to change week per week because my hours at work change week per week. This week, which is coming up, I will go live on Monday from 10 a.m. until noon Eastern time. All my times are Eastern because that's where I live. I will also be streaming on Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. and on Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. If you guys want to see me building my Landmark of Landmark competition submission, tune in tomorrow morning because that's what I'm going to be doing.
And Tam, my schedule is the same days as Lucy, just at different times. I start at 8 p.m. Pacific, that's 11 Eastern on Monday and Wednesday. I'm going to go until 11 on both days. And then on Friday, I'm going to start a little bit later. I'm going to go from 9 to midnight Pacific. That means if you're up at midnight on the East Coast, come and kick it with me. I'm doing the World of Warcraft Iron Man Challenge until I fail, give up, or succeed.
One of those two.
And then I'm going to try doing it in Final Fantasy, I think.
Yeah!
Maybe. I don't know. But at some point in time, I need to get into playing some Skyrim, and we'll discuss that in a minute. But Flattus, you're streaming now a little bit more now too.
Yeah, I'm streaming. I don't have a schedule, and I apologize about that. I will lock in a schedule this hopefully by tomorrow, and then have it out. I stream a little bit more Final Fantasy XIV. I may break away and do some other stuff in between times that some downtime I have, maybe after some Final Fantasy XIV streams, or maybe earlier on the weekends is probably when I'll start streaming some other stuff. But I also run the FC. But I also have another thing that's going on, which I think will shed some light on my other project. My other project, I launched the Twitter for. There is a website. There's nothing really there yet, but I will be starting a second podcast, and it's going to be a two-person pod, possibly three. But right now it's a two-person podcast, and it's called Maelstrom Radio, and it is a Final Fantasy XIV podcast. And Shinter in chat will be my co-host. So if you like Final Fantasy XIV, or you want to see two guys who aren't like, I don't know, it's going to be different from, I guess, other Final Fantasy 14 podcasts where some are like, let's just talk about the news and rating and stuff, where I think Shin and I are going to really concentrate more on like entertainment and being nerds and stuff like that, and like more for beginner stuff. And I'll try to get interviews on there. Like I followed and befriended Susan Calloway, the lady, the nice lady who sings a lot of the music in Final Fantasy, on Twitter, and she befriended me back. So I will try to get her an interview with her, hopefully after a few episodes. And so, if you're into that, go follow Maelstrom_radio on Twitter, and more news will come. So it's like very early, but I just wanted to announce it. It is a thing, so it'll be a thing.
Right. And as for the EverCast show schedule, we're not quite sure what we'll be covering next week. The week after that, on March 13th, we will be discussing the Elder Scrolls franchise of video games, including Elder Scrolls Online and Skyrim. Plus, I will be digging deep into the internet to see if there are any hints out about a possible next Elder Scroll game. March 20th, we will be talking about the Dragon Age franchise of video games, mostly focusing on Dragon Age Inquisition, and we may have a community guest host for that show. March 27th, we're not sure if we're going to be having a show at all. That might be a weekend that we take off. I know I will not be here. Myself personally, you'll all have to deal without me. April 3rd, the first weekend in April, if the landmark update has hit the servers, and we will be discussing the impact from the theoretical to the practical, how they have said that this is going to affect these things, and now let's see how it plays out in the game. So that is our schedule over the next month for the EverCast show. So next bit of ECast news. There is now Flattus is going to have to correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. This is going off of memory here. There is a Finnish World of Warcraft raid guild that has had multiple mythic and heroic world firsts, named Paragon. They've been raiding since Wrath of the Lich King. I think they were like number 1 or number 2 to get heroic Lich King down, and they've always been, ever since that raid fight right there, and that's the reason why I went with that one first, is they've been number 1, number 2 in the world. But they're calling it quits after this latest raid tier in World of Warcraft.
I guess you can say they're finished. I'm sorry.
You son You were
I'm so
waiting to get
sorry.
that.
Apologize. It's a terrible joke. So bad. How to derail the show instantly.
Yes. So again, I need to double check, but as far as I know, that they were a Finnish European guild, and they didn't recruit outside of their own country. So not only were they recruiting in a regional market, but they were recruiting from a country that had a very small percentage of their population plays video games to begin with. So I completely understand that turnover and burnout. Eventually, something's got to give. Hats off to Paragon for being, that level of performance consistently since Wrath of the Lich King. That's impressive.
It is, and it's a lot of work. I mean, and if you've never done or tried to attempt world progression, it's not easy. You have to take time. Like anytime a new patch comes out with that new raid tier content, you take that week off work. You put everything in your life to the side. If you have a significant other, you have to kind of tell them ahead of time, like, hey, listen, babe, this week's for the guild.
Yeah, and
so,
as soon as a patch hits the playtest server, as soon as that new raid is available, you're out there practicing your strats, figuring out boss abilities. It's tough.
yeah, and we're about to roll into that, but like Final Fantasy XIV doesn't have a beta server for like the raids. Like once it's dropped, that's your first time learning those fights. So, yeah, it ain't easy.
Right. And now going from one video game world mythic rating world firsts to another video game, Final Fantasy XIV. Flattus, you want to take this?
Sure. Final Fantasy XIV, as we said, the new content just dropped last Tuesday. So the new raid tier dropped last Tuesday, and Elysium, the North American guild that was pushing World First, got World First midnight last night, 12:14 a.m. So congrats to Elysium. The fights, the raid tier, this turnaround has been. It wasn't a DPS check in difficulty, but it was mechanically difficult. Which everyone loved. So Square Enix did keep their promise on making a more mechanically tough fight. Some of the fights are insane. I tried to avoid story to watch some of those fights, and they just look nuts. The Voltron boss is amazing. That's such a cool fight to watch.
Together we're all form the head, or what is it?
Yeah, no, seriously, they do that. Like the 4 robots combine into one big boss, but they also separate and they do separate attacks and stuff like that. They got like a power beam that shoots out of the chest and can one-shot kill if you don't group. It's an insane fight. And Sephiroth's the Sephiroth primal fight is so good too. Like it's the first primal fight I ever saw that like when you and I'm gonna ruin it because not everyone plays Final Fantasy XIV, but if you kill the boss, you think you killed it, and it's like, oh, we killed it. And all of a sudden, nope, it starts a whole new, because normally phases go 50% in second phase. You bring it down to 0, and you're like, okay, we beat it. And it falls off the edge, and no, it just becomes giant. It goes up to 100 again, and you have to fight it again. It's so great. They trick you. It's awesome.
So the last little bit of ECast news in MMOs, Black Desert Online is launching on Thursday. I know I had the beta access for one weekend, and I don't think that any of us were really that much into it. And so, we wish them the best, but I don't think that any of us will be buying it or playing it.
No, it was a little lackluster. It's kind of like my feelings with Blade and Soul. It's just not. I mean, they look gorgeous, right? They look awesome and they look pretty, but I'm just not into. There's not a lot of meat there for me to think it's a game. It's very grindy, and I think a lot of aspects. So
it's an interesting take on combat, because I played around with it to combat. It's kind of like a cross between Guild Wars 2 and more of like a MOBA. I mean, Guild Wars 2 is kind of like Smite almost, in that you basically you don't have tab targeting. You hit what's in front of you. You kind of point yourself at what you want to hit.
it's interesting. I mean, it's still pretty though.
That it is.
So
Moving on to our big topic, what draws us to games? And I thought I would turn it over to Lucy to introduce the topic, as she is the one that proposed it and kind of did most of the notes on this.
So basically, I know that I'm not just speaking for myself when I say I have been sort of lost for a game for a very long time. Maybe not Flattus is pretty set on Final Fantasy.
Hello.
He's pretty happy with that, but I don't know what to play, and I don't know, like, nothing really grabs me and keeps me. So I started just sitting down and thinking, what draws me to a video game? Like, what is it that I like to play? What aspects do I feel are important enough that if a game doesn't have it, I don't want to play? And there's a lot to go through. So I'm not sure how you want to I'm not sure how you want to break it down, if you want to talk about, like, each thing individually, like, as we go, sort of thing.
Yeah, you want me to go with the first one first?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So the first thing that we have down here, and we basically, this is the category of the world, but more broadly, it's not just the world; it's also the setting in that world. The first thing that we want is a believable world, and I think that we talked about this a long time ago when with Flattus and I, when we were talking about how you can use scenery or the setting to tell a story without having to, like, tell the story in that. And like if you come across the ruins of a castle, it might start the process of telling a story of a battle that happened that caused that castle to be ruined. But in that same conversation, we were talking about, like, well, how many farms do you need to support a city this population? Because it's a video game, it's not really a true world. It's like a representation of that world.
Yeah, so basically what I was thinking is, like, I don't necessarily want to get into, like, the day-to-day, like, how many peasants does each lord need in order to, like, keep his crops being farmed, but I want to believe that the world could exist, or that the rules make sense and they're consistent. So if the world was shaped by whimsical gods and you've got a desert in the middle of a jungle, and that's cool because it means something to this deity and he put it there and he keeps it there, fine, as long as that's, like, the rules don't change. If you've got a world where for example, like, the setting doesn't necessarily matter, but if you've got a world where it's high fantasy, magic exists, I don't want to see quests that have, like, gun jokes in them, or like technology jokes in them, because it takes me out. It reminds me that I'm playing a video game, not a person in a world doing things.
Yeah. And that's one of the notes I have down here. Robots, for me, even in a fantasy setting, that's one of the first things that I see where I start to be like, oh man, why robots? And it's sad because even Vanguard had robots.
Cool bots.
Final Fantasy's got Magitech.
Yeah, Final Fantasy has magical
Yeah,
bots.
and most video games now, or most, not video games, most MMORPGs right now have firearms of some sort, don't they?
A lot of, well, obviously I don't think Lord of the Rings does. Lord of the Rings Online. I just like, whatever theme you're going for, I just want it to be your theme, and I want it to be consistent. I don't care if you've got robots, like I think WildStar handles the whole sci-fi thing pretty well. I mean, it's fun, it's playful, that's their style, like, they can have fun with it. I just feel like whatever rules you set up for your world, they're consistent, and I can guess what's going to happen, or what the situation is going to entail, because I know the rules of the world.
Very true. So on a continuation on that same thought, we give them a bad time because they traveled through the cosmos to crash land, but the space goats. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, how much does it bother you if there is, and I'm talking about like the Draenei specifically, but in a more generality, what if there are like cross-dimensional beings or, creatures from across the cosmos that come and land and they're part of now this world?
As long as the game's rules are consistent, I'm happy with it. Like, I think we've all for those of us who have played tabletop role-playing games, if you have a good GM, they can make you believe crazy things. They can get you into crazy themes that might be jumping the shark for other games or worlds or settings because they weave it into the narrative well.
All right. And then the visual appealing world. And I think that this is how much of it matters going from like when MMORPGs first came out in like the late 90s to the current MMOs that are coming out, like we just mentioned, Black Desert Online. It's a beautiful game. When we're talking about visual appealing world, are we talking like graphic fidelity, or are we talking about something that's not technology reliant?
I've actually played, first of all, Landmark is one of the most visually appealing worlds I've ever seen. Like, the details are so rich, and the water moves, and the sunlight sparkles off the water, and it's just really pretty. Like, the sunsets and the sunrises are absolutely gorgeous. Like, that sort of thing, it's just really pretty and visually appealing because it has an attention to detail and sort of a realism, but it also is taken away from that realism enough to have staying power as an art style. But I've also played another game. It's called Eidolon on Steam, and it's all very like geometric style art, and it can still be visually impactful. Like, something can still be like, whoa, I can't believe like what I'm seeing, or that's so cool, even though it's not completely hyper realistic. I think that just whatever art style that the game has, that it does it well, and it doesn't try to be realistic just because it can. It's realistic for a reason. Like, a lot of realistic games tend to be gritty because they want you to feel like you're actually there.
Speaking of grit, they're extra credits. They're a web show. They're like 3 to 5 minute long episodes that was on the Penny Arcade website. They did one about grittiness and and how you can have a gritty aesthetic and be true to it, and then be gritty for whatever reason. It's a great episode, especially if you're curious about what other people have thought about it, to go back and check it out.
Gears of War, brown filter, everything.
Oh, okay, I may be the only person that played Gears of War on this podcast. I just never realized that.
Yeah, you're probably. I was thinking of there was a side scroll shooter that was that they used as like one of the gritty, like, because of the color palette and the gameplay. But yeah. So for me personally, when it comes to graphic fidelity, I have to say that I'm one of those. I guess I'm kind of snobby. It's hard for me to look at older games that don't have that same sort of beautiful display in them. Otherwise, I get turned off. And it's starting to mold me now, because like even when I go to the Vanguard emulation server, it's hard to play that game now because the graphics are starting to get dated, or I'm just becoming a more I noticed more things about the game. Like, I noticed meshes. I know where there's intersections of meshes that don't look right. And that comes from years of playing video games.
Yeah, clipping was never really a thing. Like, it never bothered me when I first started video gaming, and now I'm like, my hair clips through my armor.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. For me, it doesn't matter. I can play Shovel Knight is a beautiful game to me. It's, even though it's like a 16-bit based game, like an old style like SNES game, it's still beautiful. Like the art, like I look at things like how are the backgrounds done? How is the art color palette they chose? And it all comes to me in the gameplay. Like gameplay outweighs everything to me. If the gameplay's fantastically and it's got a good and it's driven, it can look like potatoes, and I'll play it. Because if it's a great game, do graphics make the game? Sure. In some instances, like Final Fantasy VII, it's like some older like PlayStation 1 titles. Yeah, they're blocky as all hell. Will I still play them? Sure. Could they use a graphical update? Yeah. Does it kill the game? No. But for big worlds I can live in. I mean, we've come a long way.
Yeah, I was gonna say that even Warcraft bothers me because the new zones and the new expansions, they look completely different from the old.
Yeah.
The graphic fidelity, the realism in the forests of like Shadow Moon Vale, is composed to the forest of Eversong Forest, and it's completely night and day. One looks like this is, and then the other one looks like, wow, this is pretty freaking cool. And
I will, like, not that it's not beautiful, but I don't like that. Like, I don't think that Landmark is truly stunning. Art wise for their world, I don't think it's that stunning. To me, it's certain things are great looking, but I've seen far prettier games. Like far like Witcher 3, beautiful. Like that is a beautiful game. Bloodborne, beautiful.
Should put The Witcher in there too.
Yeah,
to talk about in the future.
Oh yeah. So I mean, like that, like those things. But Landmark.
Yes, but I can destroy everything in Landmark.
There's certain games. I mean, you can destroy certain things in other games too. It just depends on how you look at it, and depending on certain like depending if the game's moddable or not. I mean, you may be able to like destroy stuff in like Skyrim and still download the high-res texture pack.
I didn't think Skyrim was that pretty.
Oh no, it's got a high-res texture pack. It does.
I played it when it first came out. I just like the characters. I was like, really? Like the character models? I did not think that they were that good looking.
If you download the high-res texture pack and replay with it, and then or download one of the modder texture packs, you'll get prettier graphics. It's out there. You just gotta go get it. The high-res texture pack actually came from Bethesda. So when it first launched, it's like this is what you can play it at, and they're like, this is for like bleeding edge players, and most of us have computers that can push that texture pack now. So
right. So the next thing that we have written down, what draws us into a video game, are the story elements, the macro elements and the micro elements. The macro being the big overarching story of whatever is going on in that particular world that makes it interesting to be in, and then the micro, the smaller little details of story that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to write out a full backstory for every NPC I meet, but I want them to feel like they have lives and they're not just standing there waiting for me to give me a quest.
That's a good point. That they need to be more believable than that they're just standing around waiting to give you a quest. Like if they have a love note that they want delivered to the person in the next village over, maybe they should take it upon themselves to go deliver it themselves.
Maybe. But maybe they get eaten by a wolf halfway there and you find it on its corpse.
That sucks for them.
Well, yeah, but I'd take note. I mean, that would be a, I should do this because it's the right thing to do sort of quest rather than a, sucks to be you.
I do it because it
on.
sounds kind of morbid. Oh,
yeah.
Look, dead body, right?
Oh,
the dead body is belonging.
Look,
oh,
loot is loot, okay?
It's funny it's funny that you should mention that because the treasure system that they added in World of Warcraft They threw it in Mists of Pandaria, but they really expanded on it in not Cataclysm, Warlords of Draenor. Those treasure chests that you find all over the place, they're like a dead adventurer hung in a tree, or that fell off a cliff, or like is drowned under the water, and you go and you loot their stuff.
Yeah, that's all it is.
And some of them are like there's like journals that you can loot of people that have like died in the wilderness.
I just like micro story as well as macro story. So like, yeah, there's a big overarching plot, but how does that affect everybody else? And can I see it?
Yet, how do you not like Final Fantasy?
Couldn't get past the.
Do you really like want me to explain why I don't like Final Fantasy?
That would
No.
take a whole show.
Whoa! I clicked the button. It did some weird shit over here.
We
Do
can.
the hey, dragon. Dragon.
Yeah. Hi.
Dragon. Do the dragon.
Oh, you want me to do the dragon?
Do the dragon.
All right.
Dragon.
We will come back. I want to do another episode about the about Final Fantasy XIV because we tried to do a 1 hour 90-minute show.
We talked
on
a
Final
hell of a lot about that
Oh my
story.
god, we talk so fast, and we need to get back to it. All right, so that was so story is definitely something that we look for. We want to be involved in that world and see where the little elements of that story go.
And as an aside, I also don't want to be railroaded by the story. I don't want to feel like I am the hero, the only hero, the most important person in the world. Personally, I do not like it. I don't like being like the most badass person, and because as a role player, you can't weave that into your actual character's narrative when you're talking to other role players. You can't be like, I'm the one who defeated Anixia. No, you're fucking not. Fuck you. Go on. Go. Get out. Get out of this tavern right now.
Right. And then there's those stories where like I was role playing a character. Well, it's not like I was role playing the character. It's like I was playing a character that I had that like this is what they're like and this is what they do. And in Miss Pandera, you could literally not progress the story beyond certain points without getting blackout drunk. And I'm like, this is something that I did not ever imagine that this character would do. And that's when you're getting railroaded by the story into doing certain things.
I just really hate when like, especially everybody's played that sort of like D&D thing, where the DM has a story he wants to tell and it doesn't matter what choices you make, you're going to be the hero whether you like it or not.
And Flattus, that is why I hated Lifeline.
He survived on my first run through.
I had that guy. He had rescued the captain. All he had to do was get off the planet, and he would have been the savior of not only himself but the captain. And because I had played through and he had died on my first playthrough, I knew all of the dangers, and I kept telling him, like, no, 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 no! And he would be like, all right, well, I know you told me not to do this thing, but I'm going to go and do it anyway. And then it's literally, like, the basic, what Flattus and I are talking about is this game called Lifeline. It was available for free like a week or two ago. It's a 99-cent iPhone and Google app. Really interesting take on interactive fiction. That's what I'm going to term it as. It's not necessarily a game. It's more like interactive fiction. It's more like a choose your own adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And those kinds of stories are fine, but not when I don't like it when I'm trying to play an MMO and I feel like what I came up with for my character's backstory and my character's history when I came into the world means absolutely nothing because I am now forced into this role of like a general. I'm looking at you, Guild Wars 2, or like, you know, something like that. I just don't like it. I like being the little guy. I like being the underdog. I like being a trader or a merchant or a crafter or a harvester or millions of other things, and I want a story that lets me tell my story as well as being able to participate in the overarching plot of the world.
Yeah, there's a couple of like when you want to play a thiefy character, like a roguish character, and the quest giver is like, go frontal assault on this castle over there, and you're like, no. What makes you think I'm the frontal assault type guy? I think you're gonna need to find someone else because that's not me.
Or playing a hero and sorry, not a hero, a healer, and going out onto a battlefield and rescuing supplies from the dead paratroopers or dying paratroopers when you could just fucking heal them. I'm a healer. I have healing spells. Can I just pop in AoEs and heal these people and get my quest points that way? Does it even matter? Do I matter?
Yeah, and that leads right into the next overarching thing that we had is choices matter. What you choose to do with your character, like that draws us into the games. The more times I can make a choice on what to do with my character that is more in line of what I want that character to be like. I mean, like I've said before, I have the heart of a role player, but sometimes when I'm playing MMOs, like I'm not thinking about role playing, but it's always kind of in the back of my head. Is like, does this choice matter?
And yeah, and that's another whole thing is like I want my choices in the game to matter. So if I choose to complete a quest through stealth, I can do that. If I choose to complete a quest through like non-combative purposes, I want to be able to do that. I want to somebody once leveled all the way to 80 without actually killing a single mob in World of Warcraft, but they had to have somebody else there killing the mobs and they just healed. I want to actually be able to viably play that way.
I might try doing that. There's a way to do it. We'll have to see. Okay, so, but not. Oh, go ahead, Flattus.
I was gonna say that because you said choice matters. Well, player choices, right? And none
All
of it.
choices.
All well. I mean, who here has played the Witcher series? Any of it? Just me, eh? All right. So in The Witcher, you make choices in the game, right? But they're so morally gray, you don't know what the outcome's going to be until later on, and much later on. It's not even like 20 seconds later I made a choice, and then, but it plays so well that it's like, did I make the right choice? It's something where you're like, when you make that choice, it's like, all right, do I save this guy or do I kill this guy? And it could happen 3 hours later in the game that you meet that guy again, and he's like backstabbed you because you let him live, and he's like, ha, like, you should have killed me, dummy. And you're like, fuck. And I love that. I think that's what makes that series so different and so awesome, is that like your choices matter, and it's a choice it's such an ingrained, like, it pulls you in so much that you're like, you love making those choices, because it's not like you can't, like, just like in life, you always think you're making the right decision, and later on something bad can happen because the decision you thought you made was the right one. Regardless.
Hindsight.
Yeah, and that's how The Witcher plays, is that it's not so much like other MMOs or role-playing games are like, this is the good option. This is the...
Yeah, Star Wars The Old Republic does that. Oh my god, it's like, would you like to go light side? Pick this option. Don't tell me. It's obvious. If I say, if you don't shut your mouth, I'm gonna kill you, I understand that is not something a light side person would say.
Yeah. And then that's like, if you give me the option of having like a, what do they call it, a dialogue palette of things that you can say, make those that, like, if I choose to say this particular thing, have the character say that and not any variation on it, because like I was like, wait a minute, that's not what I chose for this character to say. This doesn't sound anything like. Well, I mean, it sounds kind of like it, but I would not have said it this way. All right, so that is involved with the character choices, and then our last little drop under the choices matter, the player choices, and this is that the choices that the players make outside of the game draw you in or push you away.
Oh, it draws me in, but it just if it's Star Wars or those kind of, or like I can't think of the name of it, like the N7, the Mass Effect games, where it's like, good answer, bad answer, answer. I like morally gray. I like making a choice that it's like that hindsight choice.
Are you talking about the player, or are you talking about the character, though?
For me, or for the character itself? Like my choice for the character, or the character's choice?
No, we were moving on into like the player choices, like what you, Flattus, the person, makes, as not just the character making choices in the game, but the player outside of the game making choices.
Yeah, all
you
right,
mean
yeah.
like, for example, in games where you can pick abilities, like that sort of thing, like your
those
choices about your
choices?
character. Is that what you mean?
No, I'm
not.
talking about like you're the tank in a group and the people are complaining that you're going too slow. Your choice is either to
I see. So being a good community member, basically.
right,
Yes.
right. You can choose to be good, you can choose to be bad, or you can choose to organize
like,
things, those sort of things.
Kind of like we were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. Well,
I,
here's the thing. You play at the level. Maybe it's me. Rather, join a group of people that are like-minded, right? So join a guild that are like-minded. But if you're gonna do something that's public, like you're gonna go into a random pug group, or you're gonna do a duty finder and jump into a random group of people, you play as a community member. If you're not running with your guild, your FC, whatever have you in whatever game, that's your like-minded people. So like, all right, we just want to slam through this content, run through this content. But if you're playing with like community members, especially new players, like you got to take it easy. You can't just be an asshole. So, yeah, but assholes everywhere. So,
Yeah, and
and I am occasionally one of those assholes because sometimes fire with fire. It's if somebody wants to be an asshole in my group, then I tend to be an asshole right back. I like to be nice. I like to be the good community member. And in most games I can, but I'm telling you, there are some that I can't be.
that's fine. I mean, you didn't start. It's not like you.
Fine.
I mean, but you didn't throw the first rock. It's not. It's like when somebody comes in there. Good example. Final Fantasy XIV, right? If new players come into a dungeon or something like that, they get like a little opening cutscene. The cutscene takes maybe 30 seconds. It's not that long of a wait. You get a lot of tanks and stuff that'll just yell at people and say like, "Skip the cutscene, skip the cutscene," like so they can start rushing. I am not that person. I am not that tank. I'll let somebody watch their cutscene. It doesn't take long. It doesn't kill. Like it doesn't. It lets the healer, anybody else. It lets the healer put up their buffs. It lets the DPS get ready. It's just like an extra little 30 seconds, and then you go, and that's it. Like I don't understand that.
Yeah, see, I don't have a problem with that. Like, you know that I tank. Pretty much every game I'm tanking or healing. I don't like being DPS, and I prefer to tank. But I won't tank in a new-to-me game, so I don't tank in Final Fantasy. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe if I went back and tanked, I would like it better. I don't know.
yeah,
It's a different view. I'll tell you that much.
right, and I think that sometimes systems lend themselves to the community to be better or worse in one game or another, because I feel that like when there is a beginning and an end to a dungeon, and the goal is to get to the end, then all of a sudden it becomes a race to get to the end. No matter, that's just human nature. I get my reward at the end, so why don't I get my reward as fast as I can? And when we talk more about systems, I want to bring out whatever happened to the good dungeon crawls. No games really advertise that as a feature anymore. And I think that that's one of the reasons why those systems don't lend themselves to be good community players. And I can be laid back. It really depends on my mindset. I know that like when I'm playing Warcraft and I hit the go button on a dungeon or go button on an LFR queue, and I have to hear somebody say like, "Wait a minute, let me check specs." It's like, you could change your specs. You have enough time to change it before you hit go. Why don't you do it and then hit go so that it doesn't pull us all in at the same time? It pulls us in when we're all ready and you weren't ready. So
I just really like accountability. So like you have accountability on a character level where the choices that you made have made you gain reputation or gain, like faction with certain people, and that changes other NPCs' ideas about you, or they saw you steal that one time and now they don't trust you, or like that sort of thing. But I also want there to be player accountability. I don't like how video games have gotten so anonymous that anybody can say anything with zero consequences. You are a person. Everybody you're playing with is a person. You should treat them like they're a person, not just an object for you to take out your rage or frustration or to spew nasty things to. Like, everybody you play with is just a human being. Treat them like a human being. I want there to be I wish that it was the same as when we first started gaming, where once you hit max level, you kind of knew everybody else who was max level on your server, because they're just, gaming was like, it wasn't as big. There weren't as many people, but I just want you to like be responsible to the people that you're playing with.
Before we continue, yo, I know we have some new people in chat, so really quick, if we don't respond to you on the show, it's because we hold all your questions until the end, and then we answer them at the end. So please don't think we're ignoring you. We're not ignoring you. We do see it. We copy it all down. We do apologize, because we do realize that we do get new people coming in and listening throughout the show. So just know that at the end of the show, we do answer all your questions. Sorry, and we continue. Apologize. Didn't mean to break up the content. A fault, sorry.
So
Nothing.
then, what draws us to video games? We talked a little bit about the systems, and when it comes to the dungeon systems, but then like there's combat systems, there's crafting systems, questing systems, exploration systems, and what draws you to a combat system, and what pushes you away from a combat system?
Standing there and just hitting things and being hit. That completely turns me off to a combat system. I don't like it. Don't like having my face stuck in an action bar and not even looking at everything else around me. I want to move, I want to dodge, I want to build up combos with like individual combos or combos with my friends. I want there to be like things that if I know a mob, I can apply player knowledge and get away from or mitigate or negate. I just want combat to be active, and I want it to be intuitive, so I don't have to look at a guide to figure out what to push. Kai looks like she wants to say something.
Kai is trying to contain herself. I'm waiting my turn. I'm sorry.
Okay, so basically, I want combat to be intuitive. Like, I don't have to sit there and read a guide and figure out what is the best combination of buttons in which order that I need to push in order to win. I don't want it. I want it to be versatile. I want whatever I pick, as long as I make good choices. Like, pick a couple DPS things, pick a couple healing things, pick a couple like what's the word for it? Like support things like stuns or interrupts or things like that. As long as I make good choices, I want to be important and useful in a group. So active I've already covered. I want it to be like, I don't just want to tab, hit my buttons, tab, hit my buttons. I want to actually be involved in the game. And I want it to be cooperative. So like if I'm playing with a friend, we can do combos. Like we can build up cool abilities that maybe do like more damage or a different type of damage than they would if we were just soloing. Or I just want it to be an investment of my time and thought process.
Yeah, see, it's easier for me to think about combat systems that I don't like playing. Guild Wars 2, and it's more about how the combat system and the movement system interact together. I didn't like Guild Wars 2 because strafing left and right, you do not move as fast as you do forward. So like the movement felt clunky. It felt slow because I would be trying to like move in a certain direction and get off an attack, and because I wasn't moving at my max speed, I don't know, it felt slow.
I am. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. You smash face.
I love you, Lucy.
I know we
I
can disagree.
we disagree in that we're allowed to disagree. We have very different play styles. It's totally fine. But, I mean, because it's okay to disagree with my co-hosts. I don't mind thinking clearly. I don't mind a challenge. I don't mind having to pick the right versus the wrong thing to do. But I like to tank. Can I piss it off? I don't really care what manner in which I have to piss it off. Just let me piss it off. There's not been a single game that I've played that I was a tank that I actually tanked in, that I was like, God, I really hate tanking in this game. Tanking in this game really sucks. I mean, even in Vanguard, can't believe I'm bringing it up. Should we drink twice for me bringing up Vanguard?
Yeah.
Anyways,
Everybody get drunk.
Oh, okay.
So back in Vanguard, I actually really loved tanking in Vanguard. I love tanking in World of Warcraft. I wish that I would have taken the time to tank in Final Fantasy 14.
Still can.
So I need to go back and tank in Final Fantasy 14 because maybe that would help. You know what? It was even fun tanking in EverQuest 2. And I didn't even really like that game at all. Don't lynch me.
Can I make the suggestion real quick that if you do go back and tank in FFXIV, go warrior, go the giant two-handed axe wielding warrior tank. You'll enjoy it. Just saying. It's all about controlling your inner beast. It's such a crazy, like, interesting class. It's pretty cool.
If I don't have a shield,
You don't have a shield.
doesn't feel right.
Ooh, okay. All right, go paladin then.
I've tanked as a DK in World of Warcraft. Don't lynch me, and I don't like it as much as just give me my paladin. Let me throw my shield at things. Let me piss it off. I don't mind tab targeting. I don't mind the simple-mindedness of World of Warcraft, because sometimes I just want mindless pissing things off. This is why I got married. I mean...
Can I say that and it's just because, and then Shinter's in chat and he could easily jump in and chat and say I would say that Final Fantasy is different in, like, because I've played a shit ton of MMOs. I mean, I played from anything from Rift to Warhammer to EverQuest 1 and 2 and WoW for a number of odd crap years and way too many MMOs. So I would say that in terms of how Final Fantasy works is that each job is different. They're like, yes, like a paladin is a tank and it is your shield. It is the shield tank class. Like you're gonna parry more damage with that class than the warriors, because the warrior plays different, completely different. Even though it's a tank and it still falls into I'm going to tank the boss, it plays completely different. So it's just like I'm going through Dark Knight. Dark Knight plays completely different because I have to balance draining my magic, my MP, my mana to increase my attack, and then hold aggro, and like enmity in that game is aggro. And my TP, which is my action kind of like stuff. So I have to balance all that, and it'll drain quickly because there's a buff that increases my attack. So they all play differently enough that it's like, even though I'm doing the same role, they play completely different. It's the same with the healers. Like scholars are completely different from the way, and I like that. That's what I like, is that the classes are so varied enough that I don't feel like to me in Warcraft it's like, all right, mage, pew pew, fire rockets, right? Or I shoot ice. Then I jump into a warlock and it's like, okay, I get a pet, but also green ice, green fire rockets. Like there's not enough difference in like Warcraft or Rift or EverQuest did it. All right, EverQuest I'll give credit to. There is enough difference in those damn classes that they do feel different enough from each other. But I don't know. I like that. That's what I like. I like that there should be enough difference in the classes that, like, when I choose to level and play a class, that even though I know what I should be doing, it's enough going on. Why is everyone smiling? Did I do something? Is something wrong?
You said TP, and we
Oh.
all turned into 5-year-olds.
Oh, jeez. It's a thing.
So, moving on from the combat system, crafting systems. We talked briefly about this before the show. That I mean, crafting. I love crafting, and I love crafting systems that are also challenging, just as challenging as the combat system. I'm not talking like a mini game. I'm talking like a full-on other aspect of the game, where when I make a like if somebody wants me and hires me to make a sword for them or a shield for them, something that they're going to use, that I want it to be just extraordinarily like this is an accomplishment and here is your mighty sword and something like that. I don't want it to be like 2 clicks of a button and here you go, because that's not really a system. That's kind of like, I don't know. It's not really as engaging, and it doesn't draw me into it. It just kind of it's not the good feeling.
I just want crafting, harvesting, trading to be worthwhile. I want it to be worth my time and effort. I don't want to spend an hour harvesting things to sell it for pennies on the auction house. Nobody wants it, nobody cares. I don't want to craft max level armor or weapons or whatever and have it be worthless. I want to be I want my skill to be important.
That crafting gear though. Crafting gear is so good.
So right now I'm currently only playing World of Warcraft as the major MMO that I'm playing, and Flattus is playing Final Fantasy XIV as the major game that he's playing. What I've loved so far about this particular expansion when it comes to crafting is that some of the crafted gear that I've made at the beginning of the expansion, through patches, they've updated it and allowed you to continue to upgrade and augment it so that it's gone all the way from being equivalent to this raid tier to being equivalent to the highest raid tier, so that you don't ever feel like you have to replace it.
I don't even specifically want to say like I want crafting to be the best stuff you get in the game because blah, like this, that, and the other. I just want it to be worthwhile. I want it to
you want it to be an option.
No, I just want it to be like the skill it takes to get to the highest level of the crafting should be worth my time as a player.
Fitorian in chat said it best, is that Final Fantasy's crafting, great crafting is for complex work. Like, the people that make money in that game are crafting the most complex stuff, and you can lose your shit. Like, if you fuck up, and like, I've said it before, you get high tier quality stuff, and like low, and I think there's like a mid tier, but like or low tier, and then you can fuck up and lose all your, and then you just lose mats, and you just lose mats, and you can fuck up, yeah. And it's pretty bad.
One of the other things, like I want the max level crafters to make more I mean, if they're going to make money, if they're going to be like, hey, I make a lot of money in this MMO, or I make enough money in this MMO to make it feel like it's worthwhile, like in a lot of games, you do that by making housing mats. And I don't find that very interesting or compelling at all.
I do like making furniture. I'm not going to lie to you. I do it a lot in EQ too. I really, 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 really like housing, but I want it to be worthwhile to other people. Like, when my friend starts a new character or whatever, I want to be like, oh my god, here's so many cool things that I can help you with. Or if my character is level 80, I still want to be able to be like, oh my god, I can make so many cool things for you. Here, have these things. I want there to be a reason for guilds to come together and have different crafters working together to help, like, everybody in the guild. And I don't just mean before you start raiding or before you start dungeons. I mean throughout the whole game.
Okay, so it's been, like, we're 5 over right now, so do we want to move on to our final thoughts on what compels us, what is drawing us into playing whatever video game that we are compelling, or do we want to, what's our thoughts on this?
Sure, we can basically, after going on this huge quest, because I've actually broken all these things down on my blog and written about them extensively. I've realized that I want my video games to be more like Dungeons and Dragons or role-playing tabletop games. I want more customization for my character. I want more choices. I want my choices to matter. I want the world to be believable and like I can lose myself in. I can visualize myself in. I know what my role is. I want it to be more like a D&D session where with a really good DM. That's basically what I want out of a video game.
You sound like me year one of EverCast. Just saying.
I've always been this way. Where I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons, my dad was my very first DM. I have always wanted that feeling, and I became a DM later on when I understood the rules and things like that, to give that feeling back to my friends, and they've given it to me throughout the years by dungeon mastering for me. I just want that feeling from a video game as well. And you can start getting there with a really good guild, but I want that same feeling in a video game where you matter, your choices matter, your character is unique, and you feel like you want to spend your time in that world.
But my final thoughts, I agree with Lucy, and I think that that's one of the reasons why I feel that the video game, like especially MMORPGs, are moving in the direction of more independent servers, either allowing you to customize your own or to host your own, are for those reasons. So that you can have more control, so that if you don't like the way something is happening, you actually have the controls as a server admin to tune the experience to be more like what you want your players to experience. And I think that is really the future of video games. We've seen a lot of things that are coming out in the near future are going to be more like that. We talked about Hero Song, and Hero Song is going to be able to host your own server. Conan Exiles, I think of it, is the same thing, where it's going to be like a hosted survival MMO. And H1Z1, they talked about being like having whitelist servers and server rules, but they really haven't done much with those particular systems as far as I know.
Now, not that I've seen it, but I know early on they gave people servers, and they let those people run the servers as they chose within the rule set of H1Z1. Like, you could choose like first person versus third person, locking it in one of those two, or leaving it open. You could choose PvP only. So I know they gave it that a bit. Like, you had the choice. Like, they gave you the server, but they also said, like, here's the rule set, and you could just like Lego bricks, you could just pick and choose and plug and play in.
My problem there is that they can't enforce RP servers. There have been so many times where I've rolled on an RP server just to be like having fun with my friend, just having a conversation in the middle of a city, and having like 10 different people being like, "Lol, RP noob, you guys are stupid. What are you even doing here?" I'm like, "You're playing a fucking night elf in a goddamn pretend castle. What are I'm being ridiculous because I'm pretending to be the night elf? What?"
Yeah. I know, Final Fantasy people take their RPing very seriously. There's even a button for it in guild recruitment. Like, this is like, there are guilds strictly for RP.
No, there are guilds that can enforce the RP as well. Like, all guilds can enforce RP, but servers can't. You can't be like, you've been shown to not being on RP, get out. I want that. I want that. I want somebody who says, "Lol, RP noob." I want to like screenshot that, send it to a mob, and have that person kicked off the fucking server, because this is my house and this is where I'm allowed to do what I want to do. Like, don't shame me for RPing when you're on an RP server. That's like me going onto a PvP server and being like, "Stop killing me! It's not fair." Well, I rolled on a PvP server. Expect it. Expect a PvP.
Where's my rant sign?
Oh, that was weird. We were supposed to have that, like the flashing rant,
All right. All right. Well, I agree with Lucy and Tamlin. Like, I said that like episode 3 of EverCast. So. Is it okay for me? Yeah, totally. You can guys. Yeah, do what you want, man. You're human.
Lots of people disagree with me. I'm very
Yeah.
opinionated. I don't care. It's
Yeah.
good to have
As a matter of
disagreeing
fact,
opinions. It's good
this
for
is
that.
an
It is.
opinion show.
Yeah.
We invite you to engage in the discussion with us and agree with us, disagree with us, and enlighten us on some facet of the conversation that we might not have previously considered. That is what we're all about.
And start thinking about what you like in video games and what draws you to a video
Yeah.
game and you want to see.
Yeah. So I know like a little over, but didn't we have a question for me and then some other stuff?
I was gonna, yeah, and I was reminding Kailas if she's not ready, then we can do the do better and then do the ask Flattus.
Okay, that sounds like a good
Okay.
idea because I'm having a really hard time finding this question.
Yeah. So at the end of every show, we have two things that we have an Ask Flattus segment where we have people write into the show and ask Flattus life advice. I mean, Flattus, is there any restriction on that?
No.
No restriction on that. Whatever life advice you would like to ask Flattus, he will give you some advice. The other segment that we do at the end of the show is called Do Better. And that is the one that I host myself. And it is not necessarily a rant or a flame on a particular game company. It's just a situation in the game development world, whether it be like a game, whatever. It deals with gaming. And there are things that can be done better. Flattus, you had something? You were raising your hand?
Guy in chat said he has an Ask Flattus. So if we can't find that question, we'll let that guy ask the question and then we'll So Electric Bears.
That sounds like a good idea because I can't find it anywhere.
All right, Electric Bears, ask me the question, we'll pull it in, and then after Talon's done, we'll ask your question.
So Flattus and I were talking about this before the show. Flattus and I are both, Kailas is a pretty big esports fan as well. So right now in China, there is a Dota 2 tournament happening right now. Dota 2 is owned by Valve. The president of Valve is Gabe Newell. I don't know exactly how to pronounce the last name. Gabe. We're just going to call him Gabe. There was an incident that happened during the Dota 2 tournament over in China that caused them to have to fire one of the hosts off of the fire them off of the stream, off of the tournament. They'll say, hey, we brought you all the way over to China to host this tournament, but your solo services are no longer required. Unfortunately, and this is the do better from both sides, Gabe went publicly and called the host that they fired. And this is the president of the company. There is no one higher than him. He doesn't answer to anybody, but he called the person that his company had hired an ass. And then the person that was fired went on to Reddit and posted this huge long story about like, yeah, well, I guess I'm kind of an ass, but they hired me to be myself. I was told to be myself, and I was just being myself. And so my statement to both sides is do better. I would love no more than to see esports succeed as a mature thing that people get to sit around the television and watch. High production value, great tournaments and gameplay, and I want all of that for esports. Unfortunately, esports right now is at a very critical juncture. They are growing and maturing, but this was an immature moment on both sides. You should never publicly talk about somebody that you've done work with. It's completely unprofessional. Not only do you hurt you're the one that hired him. Did you not know? And then from the other side, sometimes you just need to learn that what other people are saying about you, you need to take the high road, walk away, and look forward to the next opportunity. Because if they're paying you money to travel to China, you have skills as a host. Somebody is likely to pick you up unless you act like an ass after the fact. So this is to the esports tournament for Dota 2 in China. Do better.
Do better. Do it. So I did get a question. So I'm going to answer that question. I like that question, Electric Bears. I'm going to answer it. Can Flattus do better? Sure. I think Usually it's life advice, but it's still a question, and I said there's no wrong questions. Yeah. Isn't that the point of any person, is to always strive and do better, right? Like, I can always do better in life. Be better at work, be better at living and doing this, doing podcasting, be better at gaming, be better at a friend, and do whatever, just be better. But that's not a bad thing. You always strive to better yourself. Every day it just take it in like little small increments. It's every day is a fucking fight, right? So you just want to go out there and better yourself a little bit at a time, and look at the end goal. So can Flattus do better? Sure. Can you do better? Why not? If you don't think you can do better, just take a step back, see what your goals are, and look at them and say, you know what, I can do better, and you will. You'll eventually go forward and do better. And real quick, hi. If you're gonna come in this chat, I'm gonna say this right now. You're gonna come in this goddamn chat room and harass. Yeah, no. And
I know where this is going.
Yeah,
Do it.
And harass my co-hosts, and then message me to harass me about me banning you. Get the fuck out. I don't want you on EverCast. I perma-banned you, fucking pink eye stumps, and I'll say your goddamn name so everybody knows you're an asshole. Don't talk about my co-hosts. Don't talk about me. I blocked you and I banned you. You're not welcome on EverCast. Any account you create on Twitch, I will fucking block you and I will ban you. You're a fucking dick. Get the fuck out. You can do better, asshole.
Yeah.
I love you, Flattus.
So we've been doing this now for over 2 years. So this is not like, we don't have a huge following or anything, but we don't need it. We love the community that we have, and we kind of cultivate the community we have to be a specific way. And one of the things that I always push for is that this is a community place where everybody is feels comfortable. And I don't like people making other people uncomfortable in my little community that I have spent 2 years constructing. Not going to put up with it. If you're new, guess what? Kylest is my wife. We live together. This has been mentioned on countless other shows. It shouldn't come into any news. But if you are new and you would like to know, yeah, Kylest, she's sitting right over there. She is my wife. Lucy and Kylest are like, one of the things that we deal with on a regular basis is how to make gaming in general more appealing to broader audiences. I'm the oldest person on the show. My peers that are my age don't play video games. And I would love to change that. I would look nothing more to change that. But like we were just talking about, with where you talk about doing better in esports so that it will grow and become more commonplace, is that the way that you treat people, this does not fly in the real world. Stop acting like it does.
And
You will get kicked out of places, you will lose friends, and you will never succeed in life with an attitude that I can say whatever I want because I'm behind the anonymity of the internet. Grow up.
Yeah, and I mean, I've gone on stream and I've said some shit, right? We all know that. But I joke. I honestly, it comes from a place of humor. I have always apologized if I've gone too far. But like, listen, when you just constantly, like, if I sit there and say watch it, like, I'll give you a chance. Like, I'm not gonna instantly throw a ban at people, and I'll give people a chance. But if you can't learn, and I sit there and say, hey, listen, dude, and I even messaged him and said, listen, I didn't ban you. It's about respect, man. Just respect us. We don't care. Like, you can say whatever you want in chat, just to a certain point, but you have to respect us. And if not, you get the fuck out. I don't really care. Like here, I have 3 general rules for like my guilds I run, and those 3 rules kind of carry me through life. And it's just like, yo, number 1, be excellent to each other. If Bill and Ted taught me anything, number 1, be excellent to each other. You can't be excellent, be civil, and if you can't be civil, fuck, be offline. You don't have to be on the internet. You know what? Go be an asshole in a Denny's and see how long you last. How about that? You like apples?
Well, hi. Got the dogs all work. So yeah, I will.
How do you
I've
how do
said
you
my
how do you
piece.
end the show? How do you end the show on that?
Hey,
How do you-
I love doing this, and like that's one of the things. Like we start off the show and we also say like we don't ask for money doing this. We do this for fun. The moment.
Yeah.
And
You know what? I know how to end it. I know how to end it. We did get
Oh,
some
okay.
questions, and I will power through. I think I'm really the only person that can answer most of these, so I will answer them. Best GTA game ever on graphics. I'd still say GTA 5 is probably the best GTA ever. Not just because it's the new one or graphics. I think it's got GTA Online, and then it's also the story for GTA 5 is just killer.
Hold
What?
that thought.
What? Hey, what? Sorry.
I played Grand Theft Auto.
I'm sorry.
Don't discount Kai.
I didn't mean to.
I loved killing hookers and stealing cars.
You can do that in all of them.
I won't say which one is graphically my favorite. I really loved Vice City. That was the one that I played the most. So
The 80s one? Yeah,
Vice
that's great.
City is well, duh, 80s. Technically a little older than that, but we won't talk about that.
It had the best soundtrack of any Grand Theft Auto. Just saying.
Right?
It did. It did have the best soundtrack.
See.
Why do you think the Warlock bonds in Destiny were even created? I know they're for armor, but why is it there? Bro, being a guy who's played Bungie games since Halo 1, no, they make some stupid decisions. I don't know. Like sometimes sometimes you got to look back and look why did they, sometimes you can say I can understand why you made this. But then sometimes they put something in the game or fix something or why did this fucking even make it in? And then I don't know, man. Talk to Bungie. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why they're there. I really don't. I don't know. We had a lot of questions tonight.
there was one about the platform.
Tell me
PS4 versus Xbox One.
Tell me about what you think about them. I don't know. The PS4, yeah, PS4 games are fun. Most of the games are more FPS or indie. What do you think? But do you think MMO will be better on Xbox One or PS4? I think PS4, and the reason for that is that even if, for example, Final Fantasy 14 is on PS4, and it's cross-play, so I can play with people on PS4. Xbox One won't allow cross-play to MMOs. Final Fantasy 14 did try to get on the Xbox Live platform because 11 was Final Fantasy 11 was on that platform, and you can crossplay with PC players that way. But this time around, Microsoft said no. They want to keep everything huddled in the little Xbox bubble, and I think that hurt people that may have been playing Xbox 360 for Final Fantasy 11 and wanted to make the jump to 14. Guess where you sent them to console-wise? You sent them to PS4 that way. So you missed out on the market. So so PS4. If you needed to get a console for an MMO, I say PS4 is probably your best bet.
Oh yeah.
And X, but I would wait to see what that happens to that.
True. And it's so weird because Microsoft made their the PC, the personal computer is a Microsoft machine in 95% of America, and the reason why is because it's so customizable. You can do this with it, you can do that with it, you can do all of these different things, and it's so weird that on the Xbox One it's no cross-platforming. Yeah, I think that until Xbox removes those restrictions, it's not as competitive.
And I think we answered this earlier, but we use Skype and we use TeamSpeak for audio.
Yeah, I answered that I love answering questions about this. So if you email us at evercast.show@gmail.com. I will answer. Oh, we have our own website.
Yeah, you do. Contact at Evercast.
Tanlin at evercastshow.com. Tanlin at evercastshow.com, and I will happily answer any of your questions about how this show is technically produced. It's no secret. It's not meant to be a secret, but I am the technical producer. It's run on my machines.
Yep. Doesn't mean we don't know how to do it. He handles it. I'm the
It's true.
backup.
True.
I'm the backup.
Flattus is the back.
Yeah, I'm the backup. All right, I'm gonna pile through the last couple questions here, and we got to say goodnight, guys. Question graphically, what do you think is better, PS4, Xbox One, or Wii U? I would say PC, but you didn't give me that option, so I would say PS4 because I own one. I played Xbox One. It looks pretty, but I just think the PS4 it's got the constant 1080p on more games. Xbox One limits at 900. I think. I mean, it's stupid not to have 1080p gaming in this point. So. 60 frames per second is a different thing, and we can argue about that. Wii U is just lower quality. I mean, it's not a bad console. It's just it's not high def yet. I think the NX will be that. So, do we all cry? And what is life? Sure. And 42. It's always 42. So, and on that,
so long and thanks for all the fish.
There you go. So long and for all the fish. And with that, as always on EverCast, we camp out, and I will camp us out. So thank you all for joining us on episode 86. We will be here again next Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 Pacific, for episode 87, getting 13 closer to episode 100. We'll think
the big 1-0.
The big 1-0.
1-0-0.
The big 1-0-0. So, thank you all, and camping in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. See you all next week, and thank you.